The Other Side of Leadership, a series by Somi Docs that explores leadership beyond titles, roles, and traditional hierarchies. In medicine and healthcare, leadership is often defined by position. But every day, there are women shaping teams, supporting colleagues, mentoring others, and creating impact in ways that may not always be visible or formally recognized. This series highlights those moments, the quiet influence, the meaningful presence, and the everyday actions that redefine what leadership truly looks like. And in this part of the series, we are also talking about the support that individuals have gotten through their leadership journey. And today, I have the great privilege of speaking with Dr. Nondumiso Makhunga-Stevenson, who serves as a physician leadership coach as part of the Ubuntu Doctor Coaching Program. I nominated her because of her leadership coaching, particularly for those stalled at mid-career positions, because it is such an important part of the journey for those who want to be leaders. And also because she reflects the kind of leadership that this series is all about, one that goes beyond the titles and can help us be felt in those everyday moments. She is spending every day focusing on supporting physician leaders as they acknowledge the humanity of others. And this is after a variety of roles where she has spent time helping others herself as the leader. I'm really excited for this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Santina. And I'm excited to talk to you again. I always enjoy our conversations.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear what you're going to share today. So let's get started. When you hear the word leadership, what does that mean to you today? Not necessarily that textbook definition that maybe you learned years ago, but what it is as your lived version.
Yeah, thank you for that question, because it does recognize that leadership is not one size fits all. It acknowledges that it is expensive, sometimes situational. And even in my own journey, I probably would have answered that question differently at every single point, because each situation and each circumstance called for different parts of me. But to get back to your question, where I am now and where I sit, which is somebody who's been through many leadership roles, but also working with leaders, physician leaders specifically, there are different elements to that definition, right? One that comes out very clearly from physicians is mission, right? And what I've learned over time is that leadership is very much rooted in people's values. And the values that I see amongst physicians are those of compassion, of care, of co-creation, of commitment to action, and many, many more other aspects. So that for me is what leadership looks like at this point in time for me, and certainly for the leaders that I serve. So people are coming into leadership positions with that heart, with that mission, with that drive to serve not only the teams, but to serve patients and also to serve healthcare as a whole. So I know it's not a one sentence, but I felt like it was important to unpack it and all the different dimensions of it that I see.
I really love that. It is so true that it changes in the stages of life that you're in and that it has so many dimensions. Can you share a little bit how your experience of leadership in this way has shaped you and how you have felt it on your own leadership journey?
My leadership journey started, like I think with many doctors, accidentally, right? So I was kind of unhappy, looking for a new opportunity, just coming off of maternity leave and thinking, well, I don't know, let me use this time while I'm maternity leave to look for another job. And I was fortunate to be recruited into a senior leadership role. It was actually called Senior Clinical Executive in a hospital in South Africa, where I'm from. And the hospital is one of the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere. And at the time, I think it was certainly one of the largest on the continent. And I found myself really, in some respects, thrown into the deep end. All I had was my undergraduate degree, some clinical experience, and leadership that trusted me to navigate the complexities of working in such a situation. So that was sort of an eye opener for me, really, to appreciate many things about leadership and how my medical training helped in some respects, but also where there were gaps in our medical training in other ways. But that was really the first entry into leadership that shaped who I am. And what I'll never forget is realizing that leadership is about people. It was not about sitting and diagnosing a problem and then sending a memo out and an email about how it should be solved. It really was about people, and sometimes people are complex, and situations are complex, and the interactions are complex, and the communities that we serve are also complex. So it was, in one way, as I said, a very difficult journey in the sense that I was completely out of my depth. But in other ways, one thing I did appreciate, and I think this is the crux of our conversation today, is the support that I received. Because these were not textbook issues, right? That one deals with. You cannot read in a textbook how to deal with or how to have a difficult conversation. You may have some guidance, but when it's you and that other colleague or peer even that you have to have a difficult conversation with, it's not easy. It's not something that you just know intuitively. Perhaps some people do have that skill. I didn't. So having leaders, colleagues around me who understood where I was, who'd walked that journey themselves, really helped to build my confidence with some of the issues that I was being exposed to for the first time. And I built on that throughout my career, learning as I go. And I was very fortunate along the way to have many, many other doctors too, who had also been through their journey, who understood and who were very, very supportive, save for one or two cases when then I really appreciated the importance of having those people around me. Yeah, so that's really, in a nutshell, my leadership journey.
Absolutely. You mentioned at the very beginning of that description that you found yourself accidentally becoming a leader. And I think that that's something that many people can speak to, whether they hold a title of a leader or not. And you have mentioned to me before that it's growth really that's important about leadership. Um, so how does someone know when they're a leader? How do they see that growth to be able to say, I'm a leader now?
Hmm. Often, certainly from my own experience working with doctors, most doctors don't even consider themselves to be leaders, even when they are exhibiting leadership, leadership attributes, or even doing leadership roles. Right? There is often, I think, a discomfort that we have around that. But what I've observed is that people will often start off wanting to solve a problem, right? The problem may be that the system is not working very well. And we know, and I think as someone who coaches across the globe, it's not something that is unique to one country or another. The healthcare systems are always challenging, have been always challenging, and will continue to be challenging. But I think as doctors, we are trained to solve problems. And usually the early signals would be somebody who takes it upon themselves to want to solve problems, who wants to fix what they identify are problems in the system. And so they would volunteer, for example, to create new curricula or better curricula, or solve workflow problems in order to have better efficiency so that patients have better experience. That's for me one of the early sort of leadership roles that people take, and they kind of grow from there. Another way that I've observed that we start in becoming leaders is, and I'm sure you've worked with people like this, whenever you have a problem and you need to vent, these are people that you go to, and they support you, right, in how to navigate the system. So what they do is they ensure that the team is at least emotionally or mentally well in order to be able to move forward or to be able to work together as a team. So those are the two sort of ways that I've seen people start their leadership journey and be recognized as leaders. And usually it's voluntary. It's not somebody saying, I want to become a leader, right? It's just people just automatically finding themselves in those roles and people recognizing them in those roles. So that's what I have seen and observed is how people start their leadership journeys. But as I said to you before, when you speak to those people, they're not going to call themselves leaders. They're less likely to say, I am a leader. I solve all these problems every single day, but I am not. I'm just a peer. I just care about my team. I just care about the system working for patients. I'm just fighting for the patients.
We'll be right back.
What if networking in healthcare actually worked the way it was supposed to? No chasing posts, no algorithms deciding what you see. We built a WhatsApp community for healthcare professionals, where conversations happen in real time and people actually respond. One of those spaces is Leadership for Women in Healthcare, and these are some of the women inside it. Beyond that, there are rooms for AI, business and medicine, non-clinical paths, students, and more. You step in where it fits, and you start connecting right away.
We're back.
When you speak to those people, they're not going to call themselves leaders. They're less likely to say, I am a leader. I solve all these problems every single day, but I am not. I'm just a peer. I just care about my team. I just care about the system working for patients. I'm just fighting for the patients. So that's where I think we start to also to carry, this notion about leadership perhaps requiring a different kind of person from who we are, because we don't, even at the early stages, begin to see ourselves as leaders. And that's why the work that I do around physicians that are stalled at mid-level, a lot of the work that we have to do is identity work, right? I don't know how many times, as I said, people just, they even have the titles, they have the responsibilities, but really minimizing the title of leader, because we're not really trained that way also. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about support. And I know that you support many around you as a coach, and you've supported people around you is in your leadership roles in the past. What do you think is something that you do consistently that contributes to others, but isn't recognized as much or is unseen or maybe unmeasured?
Mm-hmm. I coach. I do a lot of pro bono coaching, and that's, I don't want to say that it is different in the sense that it's the same person that comes to the coaching session. But working, for example, with medical students is really something that gives me so much joy, because I recognize that perhaps had we, the older generation, maybe things are changing now. There's more and more support for early career doctors and medical students. But I do recognize that my journey in particularly around leadership might have been quite different had I had coaching in the early stages of my career. One of the the areas that I see is also well, maybe not neglected, but maybe not spoken about as much, is how in some environments and part of our medical training, imposter syndrome tends to form or consolidate at that point. So really helping young doctors, early career and medical students to recognize that they have all this potential, all this leadership that they can bring in these student societies, even in small projects that they can do, or even in supporting their peers in medical school or through the very early years of medicine. Brings me, it makes me sleep so well at night. Like I've done my part, and it feels good. It really does feel good.
I greatly appreciate that you're doing that. I think a lot about that imposter syndrome and imposter phenomenon and how early it starts for so many of us in medicine, and how it can really just get in the way of how we grow. Um, and I feel like that growth is an important piece of being able to be a wonderful physician and also being a wonderful leader, whether it is one with a title or is not.
Mm-hmm.
You've shared with me before that self reflection is something that you encourage others to do. Can you share with me a little bit about how you support others in doing that reflection and how it helps them as leaders?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was really when I received coaching that I appreciated self-reflection. I had not really been one to journal before as an example of self-reflection. I had not been somebody who regularly checked in with my somatic responses to situations. I had not been one who really checked in even with my emotions, or given time to understanding my emotions and emotional reactions to situations. And as I part of, well, let me not say that I've never had it, but not in an intentional way. Probably only when things were very intense, I would then ask myself, why am I really responding to this situation? But it was not part of my regular practice to do that until I received my own coaching and really started to see the benefit of it, to the extent of even being able to define on a daily basis what success looks like that matches my physical, emotional, uh, psychological, whatever energy it is for that day. This is how I start my day. How do I feel today? What does success look like at the end of the day? So that is essentially how I have benefited from self-reflection, integrating mindfulness also into it. And that has helped me also with ensuring that I'm not always emotionally reactive. So through the work that we do, and I know as a coach, and especially with the type of work that you do, self-reflection is such an important part of our well-being. In the background, I do feel I have had some self-reflection, in the sense that I've never experienced burnout. And it sounds very strange to people, because I have, in a way, my body just does not allow me to do certain things. So I've had learned now to intentionally read my body. In the past, it would just say, close the laptop. That's literally, it was almost like a voice outside that would say, that's enough for today, close it, right? But in the work that you do as a coach, I think that that's where we really help people to understand what they need, how they operate, what their motivations are, how to really have that conversation with themselves about where they are and what they need to do, and how they can respond in a way that is aligned with who they are. So self-reflection is, I think it's the beginning. It's definitely the first part of the journey to growth as a human being, but also as a leader.
Thank you for sharing that. And I have one last question for you as we wrap up our time. And I was hoping that you could briefly share a time with us where you had a mentor that maybe helped you step into a leadership role sooner than you thought that you were ready for it, and that maybe they helped you see that you were ready.
Mm-hmm. As I've shared before, I think I had only one period in my entire career, and I'm talking more than 25 years as a qualified medical doctor, where I did not have a mentor support me. And it was a very short period, very kind of late in my career. And that is, when I recognized that I had up to then always taken for granted that I would have mentorship. That was just like what I expected from any role, right? So for me, it was not unusual then another role that I had. I found myself quite frustrated, struggling to adjust to that role. And I had coaching, and I did something that I had not done before around mentorship, which is to actively seek a mentor. Prior to that, as I said, I'd had mentors, but it was just people that offered. It was, my people around me. It was peers, and just automatically. This time, what changed was that I recognized that I had to actively seek people that were outside of my immediate universe. And when I tell you, that was for me what I want to say cracked the code when it comes to getting promotions, was that, being intentional about who you pull into your circle as a mentor, as a sponsor, as a peer, can actually help to accelerate your career. It starts off with your goals also. So, if you have clear goals, if you have a clear plan about where you want to be, then it becomes easier for you to identify the people that can mentor you, that can sponsor you, and add value to your career. So I had somebody who did not look like me, but had been in the organization for a very long time, and was very willing when I reached out to her to help my career. And it was life changing in the sense that she was, as I said, not somebody who looked like me, but who trusted me, who pushed me, who challenged me, but who also showed me beyond the operational, the technical day-to-day work, the soft skills, the importance of reading the room, the importance of understanding organizational dynamics, the culture of the organization to know when to speak up. And sometimes there are times when you have to choose your battles, right? These are all the things that she showed me that I could not have read in a textbook, let alone be able to execute it confidently. And that turned out to be one of my favorite roles where I really felt that I thrived because I had somebody who invested their time in me, not only around take this course or that course, not only that, but also emotional support and some of just the wisdom that comes with leadership. So I'm always grateful for having somebody like that in my corner. But as I said, that the most important lesson for me that I got out of that was being intentional in getting the mentors and the sponsors around you that can help you with your goals.
I think that you just said some really important things in there. You had several important nuggets that I want to re-highlight. One being that it can be really helpful to leave your immediate circle. And you mentioned that was important for you. And I see this so often because the people around you are used to one system. And so when you can bring somebody from outside, sometimes that really allows a different perspective and allows a mirror to be put up in a way that can't be done from somebody that's part of your team already. And I love that you said that it was different skills that you can't necessarily just get from a textbook, because we learn so much in medicine, but we don't learn all of these skills. Yes, I think that some of these skills are really important for our day-to-day in healthcare, whether you wear the title of leader or not, but we don't learn those in medical school. We don't learn those in nursing school, depending on what position you have. There are things that we have to go outside of the room to learn, and sometimes even unlearn from what was helpful in getting us into the positions that we are currently in. And just the intention. Intention is my favorite word for everyone. That when you're intentional, it is so much, you're so much more able to have the possibilities and reach those goals that you're hoping for, whether it's the one that you've written down or the one that you're pleasantly surprised to achieve. Thank you so much for everything that you have shared today. This is really a conversation that we need more of in this world. I greatly appreciate your perspective. And this is truly what this series is all about. Leadership is not always visible, and it is certainly not always exactly the same, but it is always deeply impactful. And so to everyone who is watching or listening today, we hope that this conversation expands how you see leadership, not just in others, but leadership in yourself. This is the other side of leadership.